Shabbat Shalom, family. Good to see you all here. Hope you're doing well. We're going to talk about an order that was given for Philadelphia to take down all of the exhibit. This is at George Washington's house. In fact, I went there on a trip when I was a child. George Washington had a home, Betsy Ross had a home downtown, William Penn, Benjamin Franklin, they all had houses in Center City, and their houses are there for touring. So, ladies and gentlemen, George Washington had 9 slaves at his downtown home. And Donald Trump had the entire exhibit. So I guess if you go there, we're supposed to all believe George Washington never had any slaves at his home. And we all know he's a slave owner. Well, you know what I think looks bad? First of all, y'all were heavily banning books and banning any Black author that wrote books. Y'all were heavily doing this over the last few years. Now that Donald Trump has made it back in office, I still can't believe y'all put a felon in office, and we're supposed to all respect this. So anyway, this felon got the nerve to be trying to purposely go out of his way to remove any of our history, remove us from monuments, remove us from cemeteries, remove us everywhere. And you know what's really trifling? Y'all are doing this in front of the whole world. In front of the whole planet, you are trying to erase a history that can't be erased. You got to be absolutely insane to believe you can erase slavery from the history. You can't undo what was done on this soil. You are not going to be able to just remove a few things and all of a sudden what happened in history on this soil will disappear. I can assure you it won't disappear. It won't disappear. The history is never going to disappear. You know why? Our Heavenly Father is never going to let the history go away. He's never going to allow what you Gentiles did to just fizzle away. It is here and it will always be here. And there's nothing you can do about it. And another thing, stop hiding behind your children as an excuse for why you're taking this stuff down. You ain't taking no shit down over no children. You're doing this for the adults, the white adults that for some reason you're so weak when it comes down to slavery. All of a sudden, oh, this is going to impact your kids. You ain't thinking about them children. You don't care about them children. You care about you having to listen and endure and still have to hear the history. You are tired of it. Stop hiding behind your children because this is not about children. It's about the adults. That's what it's about. That's why the adults are the ones stomping around trying to take everything down. It ain't no children. Your children haven't been on this earth long enough to know that much history. This is about the adults. So you can take down everything if you like. Slavery still happened on this soil. It still happened on this soil. Jim Crow happened, Reconstruction happened, mass incarceration happened. It still happened. It doesn't matter what you physically got up. What you can't do is get rid of what happened. And this is not going to do anything. You know, the more you try to remove, the more ridiculous you look. And you're showing the world how emotionally bankrupt and weak and moralless you really truly are. You're not making us look bad. You're really making yourselves look bad. because you feel a certain way about slavery. It should just go away. Well, this stuff wouldn't have happened if your forefathers weren't pathetic and lazy. Instead of bringing their sulfuric smelling asses over here and doing their own work. If you would have done your own damn work, you wouldn't have to worry about this stuff now. Okay? And to this very day, you're so pathetic you won't do your own work. That's why you got all these brown people over here, because you still won't do your own work. All you had to do was bring your ass over here and do your own work, and you just couldn't do that. And then you sit around talking about, well, it was capitalism. No, you're lazy. Y'all are lazy. Y'all are lazy. Look at these farmers. As soon as their workers got deported, they let their fields rot. They let their crops fail. I thought y'all had high IQs and know everything. Then you should have went out there and saved your crops. And you didn't. So no, that's lazy. That's lazy. Okay? And you still don't want to do your own work. You still don't want to do it. You think that's beneath you. So I'm going to show you some footage on what happened in Philadelphia at the orders of Donald Trump. And you'll see people reacting to the exhibit being taken down at George Washington's house in Philadelphia. All right, let me share my screen. Shabbat shalom to everybody in the chat. Please give me a 1 if you can see my screen. Antithesis, thank you so much for the super chat. B1, Valdosta, Georgia. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right.
It's a terrible day for American history. It's a terrible day for Independence National Historical Park. It's a terrible day for our city. Today, people from the National Park Service came out and removed all of the signage and all of the interpretive materials from the President's House site at 6th and Market Streets. I am outraged. I'm bitterly disappointed. Philadelphia stood up strongly against this move last year in many ways, with rallies, demonstrations, letters sent to the Secretary of the Interior saying that this is telling the full story of American history. Slavery was part of it. If we don't commemorate it, if we don't recognize it, we're disrespecting the people who had to go through that terrible time, and we fought a whole civil war over it. So it is part of our American history, and this was telling a piece of that in Philadelphia that was very important. It was there for 15 years. It was created after years of scholarship and research to make sure we got the story right. And today, in a matter of minutes, it was all ripped down and presumably put away in storage for who knows how long.
Let me affirm for the residents of the city of Philadelphia that there is a cooperative agreement between the city and the federal government that dates back to 2006. That agreement requires parties to meet and confer if there are to be any changes made to an exhibit. And our city solicitor, Renee Garcia, is working in conjunction with the amazing members of our law department team in working to follow up on that cooperative agreement, and we will keep you posted as to the results of all of our action. And that's all of the comment that I will be making about that issue on today.
Developing right here and right now tonight on Independence Mall, a piece of Philadelphia history was removed this afternoon by the federal government. Crews dismantled plaques telling the stories of the 9 enslaved people who lived in the president's house and were owned by President George Washington. Last year, President Trump ordered National Park staff to flag any displays that might be seen as disparaging to America's past. Philadelphia Mayor Sherelle Parker says the city is conducting a legal review of this tonight. An attorney who advocated for those plaques in 2010 called the removal, quote, outrageous and blatantly racist.
Welcome to the President's House, just steps away from the birthplace of America here in Philadelphia. This is where President George Washington once lived towards the end of the 18th century. Now, for more than a decade, an exhibit right here remembered the 9 enslaved people who lived and worked here under President Washington. Well, yesterday, the Trump administration took that official exhibit down. A Trump executive order from last year called for the removal of content that inappropriately disparage Americans, past or living. Well, Philadelphia is now suing the Trump administration to return the display. But as you can see here, Philadelphians have not waited to share their anger and frustration, putting up signs all across this former display, calling on people to remember the history of this spot and to remember the history of this country.
City of Philadelphia is not messing around when it comes to preventing the Trump administration from whitewashing our history. The city is suing Trump's Department of Interior after they removed an outdoor exhibit on slavery at the Independence National Historic Park. This outdoor display was at the president's house site, which is where George Washington once lived. It told the story of 9 slaves that George Washington had owned, and it had been up since 2010. However, on Thursday, park officials took down the display without any advance notice to the city of Philadelphia. They're now suing, asking a judge to require them to put it back up as this lawsuit plays out through the court system. Through an executive order, Donald Trump has said he wants, quote unquote, truth and sanity restored to historic monuments. Historians call that whitewashing. History is not always comfortable. However, one party wants to face the issues head on, while the other one wants to hide them and pretend they never existed.
Earlier today, I want to show you what happened. Several plaques and markers depicting slavery were taken down from the president's house here. This is by Independence Historical Park, and this is believed to be the result of an executive order from last year in which President Trump told the Department of Interior to ensure that materials don't disparage Americans, past or living. Well, the city of Philadelphia filed a lawsuit against the Secretary of the Interior, saying that the city had no notice about the removal of this, calling it arbitrary. Well, Congressman Brendan Boyle posted a statement tonight. He calls this very unacceptable. He says Philadelphia and the entire country deserve an honest accounting of our history, and this effort to hide it is wrong. We also got a statement from Philadelphia City Council President Kenyatta Johnson. He says removing the exhibits is an effort to whitewash American history. History cannot be erased simply because it is uncomfortable. Removing items from the president's house merely changes the landscape, not the historical record.
The city of Philadelphia is suing the Trump administration this morning over the removal of artwork and displays from an Independence Mall museum that reference the history of slavery in the U.S. The city says they believe the removal is due to the president's executive order, which tells the National Park Service not to promote content that disparages the Americans, past or living, and instead focus on the achievements and progress of the American people. Philadelphia's City Council president is calling this a whitewashing of American history.
So the American Park Service started removing a slavery memorial in Philadelphia that was meant to honor the 9 people who were enslaved by George Washington. The removal of the commemorative plaques was ordered by Trump and his Interior Secretary to get rid of disparaging materials from Independence Hall ahead of America's 250th birthday. This is related to the executive order Trump passed last year called Restoring Truth and Sanity to American History, in which he also attempted to remove the slavery exhibit from the Smithsonian because he said the museum focused too much on how bad slavery was. Those exhibits are still up due to extreme public backlash and legal battles. Philly has already filed a lawsuit to have the signs put back, saying that Trump did not engage with the city and does not have the city's approval to make unilateral changes to the president's house exhibit. But make no mistake, this is a propaganda move, and it shows us just how thoroughly the Trump administration is trying to whitewash American history.
Yesterday, the National Park Services in Philadelphia went into the presidential historical site and removed all the slavery exhibits. They were acting on an administrative directive from the President of the United States that said they were disparaging materials. I know that dumb motherfucker doesn't know what disparaging means, but I do. It means of little value or importance. The only people that those exhibits were of little value to are racist motherfucking white men and women. Y'all are fucking evil. Y'all are fucking evil. And if you were ever wondering, the time is now. We have to fucking do something. White people, the time is now. Put up or shut up. Something needs to be done. Fuck. Philly filed a lawsuit against them, and I hope to God that they get every fucking penny. Let's form a group or something and start demanding shit. We can start our own group. Something needs to be done.
The panels taken down this week in Philadelphia memorialized 9 enslaved people who lived in what was once the executive mansion for President George Washington.
It made me feel sick. We're proud of our history. Part of that pride is acknowledging negative aspects.
Last spring, President Trump ordered national parks to ensure displays did not contain content that, quote, inappropriately disparage Americans. Philadelphia officials are now suing the federal government, calling the move unacceptable.
This is another attempt of President Trump trying to whitewash American history. As an African American, I recognize that African American history is American history.
What would you say to fellow Americans who think that having an exhibit like this is divisive?
It's not divisive, it's our history.
And today, the Department of the Interior responded and said it's carrying out the president's order to review interpretive materials to ensure accuracy, honesty, and alignment with shared national values, and that Philadelphia should focus on getting their jobless rates down and ending their reckless cashless bail policy instead of filing frivolous lawsuits in the hopes of demeaning our brave founding fathers.
Behind me, where those panels had been displayed, people have put up handwritten signs that read, "Learn all history." Tony?
Lane, thank you very much.
We cannot eliminate the history that happened here, and not looking at it doesn't make it go away. I am heartbroken today. I am gutted because it scares me to know how many people think this is okay, and it makes me sad to know that so many people think that this is okay. Because if we aren't strong enough as a country to look at our history in the face and say no more, then we're just going to continue to repeat it. So I used to tell my kids in school the reason we learn about history is so we don't repeat it. We learn from our mistakes, just like we do as humans, just like we should as a government. We learn from our mistakes and we don't repeat them. But we are repeating them. George Orwell gave us a playbook. Margaret Atwater gave us a guideline to pay attention, to wake up, and we haven't. And I read those books in high school, and I'm old.
The walls of the president's house here in Philadelphia, empty because of a change yesterday by the Trump administration. I want to take you inside. You can see where those pictures and stories used to be. These were all individual stories of people who were enslaved in this house, a former home of President George Washington. Now those stories have been taken down because the Trump administration deemed them unflattering to American history. That is because we heard about this executive order that came down last year, ordering any place within national parks that had displays to be reviewed to see if any of those displays reflected unfavorably on American history. And this was deemed to be one of those displays. So all the walls that were filled with the stories of people who were enslaved by President George Washington, now empty, barren, because yesterday workers came and removed those displays. I was told by a source that not even the park workers here knew that those displays would be removed yesterday. Now the city of Philadelphia is suing over this move, saying the federal government did not have the authority to remove this display. So this is an ongoing battle, but I can tell you what I've been seeing today are quite a few tourists who don't know what they're looking at. They don't even know that this was President George Washington's house, let alone the stories of the enslaved people who live here. A lot of them have told me that it's sad to them that this has happened because they're unable to learn about a part of history.
Okay. So, Donald Trump, it seems like the only history that is deemed as bad history is our history. But anything white people did or any white person they want to honor, oh, that history's all good. But here's what I got to say to Donald Trump and people like him. You can blot out our history and act like it didn't happen. But one thing I will do on my end, I'll blot yours out. And your history is dead to me. You can't make me acknowledge your history. You can't make me do it. So I can just put blinders on when it comes down to your history. And anytime you achieve anything, I don't have to pay attention to it. Two can play that game. I don't have to acknowledge nothing any of you or your forefathers have done. There you go. You can't make me do it. So there you go. I can play that game too. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and conclude. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you, Antithesis, for your super chat and support to my channel. And I will see you on my next live, which is actually at 12:45. I'm going to be talking about this ice storm that is actually going to impact 34 states. That's the majority of the country. And I got a call from my power company giving us a warning that we could lose power. I pray we don't. I sure don't want to be without power during this treacherous storm. And we went down to 9 degrees last night. Who the hell wants to be without their power now? So I will see you then. Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, family.